The Milwaukee Bucks 2025 season has officially come to a close, and it came to an end in the most disappointing way imaginable. In round 1, Damian Lillard suffered an Achilles tear. Outside of that, the Milwaukee Bucks were non-competitive in a bunch of games. They had Game 5 locked up on the road in Indiana, going back to Game 6 in Milwaukee to try to extend the series to a Game 7, and they had an epic collapse. They lost to Indiana in overtime, and now every single eyeball in the NBA landscape is going to be on the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo this offseason, and to figure out what direction they're going to go in. Because the Milwaukee Bucks long-term outlook is very bleak at the moment, especially with Damian Lillard most likely being out all of the 2026 season, or at least 90% of it, and who knows how he would look next year in the playoffs. They do not own their first round pick in this year's draft. They have a least favorable first round swap in 2026, 2028, and 2030. They don't own any of their first round picks in 2027 or 2029. So that means they do not own their first round pick outright until the 2031 draft. Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, Gary Trent Jr., Taurean Prince, Kevin Porter Jr., and Ryan Rollins can all be free agents in a few weeks. And who wants Kyle Kuzma right now? The Milwaukee Bucks' young core around Giannis Antetokounmpo is Tyler Smith, Chris Livingston, and Andre Jackson Jr. It is one of the more darker futures in the NBA, but at least they still have a top 3 player in his prime right now in Giannis. But can you build a championship team around Giannis throughout the next 3 to 4 years while Giannis is still playing like a top 3 player in this league? I thought a big out for them this offseason was going to be trading away Damian Lillard, because I think they could have taken a page out of the LA Clippers books. You could trade somebody or let somebody go like Paul George in Damian Lillard, and you could surround Giannis with better shooters, more agile defenders. There definitely would have been a robust market for Damian Lillard and his offensive creation for what he did in 2025. Definitely having a bounce back regular season compared to what he did in 2024. But now that Damian Lillard suffered that Achilles tear, that really throws a wrench into that plan. Is who wants Damian Lillard this offseason, where he's barely going to play in 2026, where he's owed $54 million, 35% of a team's total cap space, and then in 2027 he has a $58 million player option that he's most likely going to opt into as a 36-year-old. So there's a chance that Damian Lillard is just a sitting $54 million on your books next year, and you're going to get zero production out of that. The Bucks did win a title in 2021, so they did give their fans something in which they can hang forever, but I don't see this team's outlook looking any brighter right now with what they have going for them. I do believe that playoff series and losing to the Indiana Pacers was an end of an era. The Chris Middleton trade for Kyle Kuzma has not worked out great over the last few weeks, as Kyle Kuzma was horrendous in round 1 of the playoffs against the Pacers, and he's making over $20 million a year for the next 2 seasons. He's owed $22 million in 2026 and $20 million in 2027, and I think he has created his value right now, as he's going to be 30 years old in the offseason. He doesn't play great defense, and he hasn't pretty much been a positive shooter since his rookie season, and that could restrict the Bucks to doing something this offseason, as well as giving up AJ Johnson, who could have been a nice young piece in that Kuzma trade, and a future pick swap down the line as well. The Bucks are $23 million below the luxury tax at the moment, and $41 million beneath the second apron, which was the main reason for that Chris Middleton trade, to get below the second apron, but that's all without Brook Lopez right now. If the Milwaukee Bucks re-sign Brook Lopez, who's going to be 37 years old and isn't the player he used to be, he's still a good player, but they could use their $14 million non-taxpayer mid-level exception on him to fill out the roster. Kevin Porter Jr. is most likely opting out of his player option. Bobby Portis could opt in for around $13 million. I think he's going to test the open market. Pat Connaughton has a $9 million player option. He's opting into that. He's basically useless on this team going forward, and that has just been a negative contract on their books for the last few seasons. They've been desperately trying to get off of it. I'm really surprised they were not able to include this contract in the Kyle Kuzma trade, because he could get waived in the offseason, although he has been with the Milwaukee Bucks for the last 7 years. They also just recently extended John Horst, their general manager, so he has some job stability right now if he were to trade Giannis and go into somewhat of a rebuild going forward. They gave Doc Rivers a massive contract to be their coach last year, and Doc Rivers really hasn't achieved much in the playoffs either since winning that 2008 NBA Finals with the Boston Celtics. So the only route Milwaukee could basically go into this offseason is trading away one of their best players in franchise history, and when he retires, he could be a top 20 player of all time in Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's going to have his 7th straight season as a top 4 MVP finisher in the NBA. He just averaged 30 points this year, 12 rebounds, 6.5 assists, and shot 60% from the field, and was an above average mid-range shooter this year and a good defender as well. If the Bucks won 10 or so more games throughout the regular season and were a little bit better of a team overall, Giannis could have won his his third MVP this year. He put up that type of numbers in 67 games played. And yes, Giannis was banged up in the 2023 playoffs and he didn't play at all in 2024, but he's been more available than other stars in the NBA. He's played over 60 regular season games every single season of his career. Last year, he played all 73 games before suffering that injury late in the year, which made him injured for round number 1 against Indiana, a series he almost came back in. And if they advanced and beat Indiana, he would have came back for round number 2. But it does feel like Milwaukee has gone back every single year since winning that NBA title in 2021. They lost to Boston and blew a 3-2 lead against them in the Eastern Conference semifinals in 2022. We all know about the 8-seeded upset. The Heat beat them in 2023, and then last year losing to the Pacers, as well as this year as well. And if they make Giannis available, this could be the biggest trade in NBA history. Because if the Dallas Mavericks made Luka Doncic available to the rest of the league, and not just the Lakers, they could have gone a whole lot more. So if Giannis is available to a bidding war on the open market, who's going to be 30 years old when the 2026 season starts, he's under contract for the next 2 years, guaranteed in 2026 and in 2027, and has a $62 million player option in 2028. So you're getting a guaranteed 2 years out of a top 3 player in the sport in his prime. You can get a haul. But the thing for Milwaukee is they don't own the direction of their draft picks until 2031, like I said in the beginning of the video. And the teams that own their picks are the Brooklyn Nets this year, which is the 19th overall pick, but then also the Portland Trailblazers from the Damian Lillard trade and the New Orleans Pelicans from the Drew Holiday trade own their draft capital going forward. So could Portland or New Orleans try to make a swing, give Milwaukee their picks back, and land Giannis Antetokounmpo? Honestly, I don't see either team making a trade for Giannis this offseason. A lot of people are going to talk about the Brooklyn Nets this offseason trading for Giannis, and they do have a lot of draft picks that they could move, but I'm not sure any of those picks are super valuable right now, because maybe they win the lottery and they do get a top pick in the draft, but right now that pick is at number 6. They own 3 late first round picks this year from the Bucks, the Rockets, and the Knicks, and their future draft picks right now are basically through Philadelphia, but that has a heavy protection on it, the Knicks from the Mikal Bridges trade, but you'd expect the Knicks are going to be fine at least until the year 2030 with the core they have right now and their picks. So I don't think you're really getting any blue chip picks outside of maybe a swap in 2029 involving Phoenix and Dallas, which could have some value. Maybe you're getting guys like Nick Claxton or Cam Johnson back in return, but Giannis isn't going to have a good roster there in Brooklyn. So I don't see that happening this offseason. I think Milwaukee is going to be in the market to get star level players back, or at least good players right now, rather than going the draft pick route. So I think a team like the Houston Rockets would make a ton of sense. They're a team that is extremely young right now, but they do have an aggressive owner who would love to get a star level player like Giannis. Yes, he'd be going to a loaded Western Conference, but the Rockets are one of the few teams in the NBA that can give Milwaukee what they want, but can also compete next year and years going forward. They can call up the Milwaukee Bucks, offer Alperen Şengün and Jalen Green right away, and that's going to be an enticing offer because maybe Jalen Green just needs a little bit of a change of scenery. He's under a fine contract going forward and is a former 2nd overall pick. Alperen Şengün was an all-star this year and could legitimately be a center you could build around in the long term in Milwaukee. And then maybe you're able to get one of Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepherd, a top 10 pick in this draft that the Rockets own from the Phoenix Suns, and the Rockets also own some Nets draft picks going forward and Phoenix Suns draft picks. So Houston could still make this trade, keep Amen Thompson, keep Tari Eason, and the veterans like Dillon Brooks, and maybe they do something with Fred VanVleet this offseason, as well as all their own draft picks, because they don't have to throw in that much draft capital. They're actually saving money with that deal as well. They could decline the team option on Fred VanVleet, and they could open up a max contract space this offseason. You're guaranteed at least 2 years of Giannis, and you can make a run in the Western Conference, and this could be Giannis's next team where he tries to win a title. Obviously, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be rumored in these deals. I don't see Sam Presti trading away Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams to go get Giannis. Their window is open right now and for the next 5+ years. It doesn't feel like a deal that Sam Presti would make. Now, if they can maybe just trade Chet or J-Dub, maybe they would think about that. But to be honest with you, I think all eyes are going to be on the Houston Rockets this offseason. There could definitely be a surprise suitor for Giannis. Maybe that's going to be the Philadelphia 76ers, the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm sure the Phoenix Suns or the Miami Heat or the New York Knicks all want to get involved, but I don't think that they have enough assets to go out and get Giannis. Could we see a surprise Atlanta Hawks sweepstakes in this deal, or maybe the Minnesota Timberwolves? I think there could be an all-out bidding war if Giannis were to be made available this upcoming summer, and this could go down as the biggest trade in NBA history in terms of a return value. I also didn't mention the San Antonio Spurs. Imagine a Victor Wembanyama and Giannis Antetokounmpo frontcourt. That would just be insane and could dominate the NBA in the paint for the next 5+ years. I'm sure Nico Harrison would like to get involved in this trade as well. Would Milwaukee be interested in Anthony Davis? It's also kind of funny funny looking back on this, because what if Nico Harrison just waited until the offseason to trade Luka? He could have probably have done Luka Doncic for Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's a much better asset than Anthony Davis going forward. Because Milwaukee, in my opinion, they can't afford not to trade Giannis this offseason, but then trade him next year if he does request a trade, because his value is going to take a hit. He's essentially going to be on an expiring contract, and the return value that you would get for Giannis by trading him this offseason would be pretty much cut in half. You would still get a great return, but we've seen teams in the past like the Washington Wizards with Bradley Beal, the Pelicans with Brandon Ingram, and even the Trailblazers with Damian Lillard wait too late to trade some of their stars, and they're getting basically 50 cents on the dollar for their star player going out. So that is gonna be it for me. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Let me know what you guys think the Milwaukee Bucks should and will do this offseason. Do you think that they're going to trade Giannis, or do you think they're going to try to just be competitive and Giannis is going to stay as a Buck for life? I would like to see that. I think it's cool. We've seen Kobe as a Laker forever, Dirk as a Maverick, Steph as a Warrior. I'd like to see that with Giannis, but you never know in the NBA. Let me know what you guys think down below. Subscribe if you were not already, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.